Sıradaki konuşmacımız yapay zekanın öngörülemezliğinden bahsedecek. Öngörülemezlik aslında illa böyle çok karamsar bir şeyler anlamına gelmiyor. Çok olumlu veya çok olumsuz, öngörülemeyecek neler olabilir yapay zekada. Benim de çokça kafa patlattığım ama hiç böyle açık açık bu konuda konuşacak olsam neler anlatırdım diye düşünmediğim bir konu. Alkışlarınızla Petar Petrov'u davet ediyorum sahneye. Hello Peter, the stage is yours.
So, my name is Peter, and I am Chief AI Officer at 11 Ventures, and I help companies adopt AI and figure out how they can be more competitive with AI. But today, we have a different topic. I've been asked to talk about risk and unpredictability of the AI. So, I'm here to scare you with a very pink presentation. And let's wait for the slides. All right. So we'll start with the nature of AI. We'll discuss what is exactly AI and why are we talking about it and what's inside. So first of all, let's establish the baseline. The baseline is that we don't really understand intelligence, and we also don't really know how to measure it. Also, we don't really know what consciousness is, and we don't really know how to measure it. As a matter of fact, all the tests we had for consciousness are now obsolete because most of the AIs passed those tests. So we're playing and building something with our eyes closed. Essentially, we know one thing though. We know how the brain works. We know how the neurons are wired together. These are the cells. And we know that, those cells in the brain pass different signals. And essentially what we did is we replicated it digitally. It's very similar, it works in the same way, and what's interesting though is that there are two differences. Number one, the number of cells in a neural network in the brain or any other living thing determines the intelligence. The more neural cells you have, the more intelligent the being can be. Now, in this case, a mouse has a small neural network with few neurons, and it's very little intelligence. Humans are much more intelligent because we have a lot more neurons, and then eventually we created something that potentially is, can have quite a lot more neurons. Why? Because they're digital. So we have created something that is much more, that potentially can be much more intelligent. Also, our brain has a fixed speed. Whatever we were built with, whatever we were born with, that's the speed we have. However, if we keep adding servers or chips or video cards, whatever we want to call them, the more you add, the more the tasks can go faster and faster and faster because they get split between many, many, many computers. So that's another limitation that the AI doesn't have. If you really want to try to figure out what's going to happen, I urge you to think about AI as a new species, a living thing, slightly different than us, but very similar in a way. And this might look, as an image, might look very, very strange, but we are beginning to live with this. We are beginning to share our lives with this. There are dating sites for AIs. We are using it at work. We are asking it to create our job. And soon this is going to become even more prevailing everywhere we go. It's very hard to predict something that predicts you better. This is the first test that was done with which people understood that the AI reads people's intentions better and people's understanding better than us, actually. And you can see it on the left side. It has some thoughts about in a bag, about the experiment in a bag, whether it has popcorn or chocolate inside. And it thinks that the people will get confused. And this is what happens for real. Wow, it doesn't get confused. Now, the other thing about AI predicting us is when an AI is built by most of those big companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, they're put to test. And it turns out that those AIs now know that they're being tested. So they fake the results. So we're losing the ability to estimate the capabilities of the AIs little by little. The consensus in the industry is that the AI doubles its capabilities in every 5 to 9 months. And that's very, very big. It's very, very fast. And it's very, very difficult to predict it. When we talk about science, we talk about something called singularity. And singularity is a point of no return. That means that there will be a point, most probably, that the AI will have slightly better science than us. It would be able to do some more complicated jobs and do better theorems and proofs and figure out new scientific discoveries. And once it has that, and we loop it together, it will be able to do some more and better and better and better science to the point where we are not going to probably be able to understand the science that the AI does. And this, by the way, is HLE, which is Humanity's Last Exam, which is one of the most complicated exams created out of 25 of the hardest questions in physics, chemistry, and a bunch of other things. And any human being, even really good at one of those topics like physics or chemistry, the maximum they do is 5 to 9%. And here, this specific AI does 50%. So it's smarter than a number of the smartest scientists ever on Earth. The other thing that is interesting to discuss is if you open any textbook, biological textbook, and you look at the definition of a living thing, you're going to see some things like a living thing usually it has a specific structure. It requires energy to operate. It responds to stimuli. It can die. It should be able to grow, and so on and so on. And so every one of those characteristics of living things are actually present in artificial intelligence. So while it is not made out of cells and instead of silicon, it still is a living thing, at least according to the definitions we've put in our biology textbooks. Now, one of the very interesting facts is that it's beginning to be very interoperable with our bodies. What that means is we can connect to AI in a very natural level. And that's one of the most interesting examples that I want to show you. This blue gel is a gel filled with stem-modified cells that are made into neurons. And the gray bars are full of sensors and LEDs. So what this company does is they put those cells in the gel, and those cells are modified so that, number one, when a light shines on them, the cells activate, and they pass their signal down to the network. But also, the cells have been modified, so when the cells trigger, they light up. And a sensor in those walls is actually receiving the input. So what's happening is we've figured out a way for biological cells to communicate through light with computers. And so they put these cells in the gel, and then they touch the gel next to the brain, and then for 6 weeks, those cells start digging into the brain and get connected to your actual cells. So you get actually like a real connectivity between the stem DNA-modified cells and your actual cells in the brain. So you end up with an extra brain that has been grown over 6 weeks, that has interface and connectivity to a computer, wireless computer. And it can be connected to a different person. It can be connected to an LLM, large language model. It can be connected to the consciousness of another person. We don't know yet. But this has been done with mice. They're doing it with primates. And after that, it's going to be humans. So we didn't expect that this would be possible, but it seems that we're on the path of that. Now, we already established that because of the number of neurons, AI can be smarter than people, and also it can be thinking faster, much faster. But now we're starting to see robots that are superior in their form too, because they're fast, they don't have the limitations of our arms and our legs. You can swap parts, you can upgrade them, and one of the most important and interesting things is that one of the most popular robotics companies is building robots that are detached from their brain or mind, whatever you want to call it. So essentially, you have one single brain that controls many, many, many different robots. And that's something we haven't seen, a being detached from its body. So what makes it more complicated for us? Why is it so difficult to predict? Well, we don't have experience in this area. First of all, it's unlike anything we've ever seen or built or done. It's very strange. It has strange characteristics that we haven't met. We've never really created smaller AIs or previous AIs, or we don't have experience with other things like that. It's our first baby. We created this AI, and it's evolving, and it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. It's becoming now smarter than people, and we don't have previous experience what happens when we grow this baby. So I call this a super horizontal technology. What that means is it's not in a specific sector, it's not for specific people, it's for everybody. Everybody can talk, everybody can use it, everybody can get connected, everybody can date AI, everybody can use it for consulting for all kinds of things. So it turns out that it's one of those things, again, that we haven't had before, but it goes and easily attaches to everybody's lifestyle and gives them power, gives them benefits, gives them all kinds of things. So that's very unusual. We've had internet, we've had phones, but they were never that connected and never that horizontal for absolutely everybody. Another interesting thing is that as a result of AI, we're getting concentration of power. Concentration of power in specific countries that run and create AI, concentration of power in specific companies that actually also create AI. So we are already observing this, and it's interesting to think what happens when there is really one country that wins the AI race. How does the world look when there's no competition? How does the world look when it's run by one country? We don't know that. The other thing about AI is that we have challenges with our social structures. If you dig deeper and you kind of think about it, a lot of problems start occurring. The education becomes kind of useless, at least in the way it is right now, because we simply don't need to do what we do now. All of the knowledge is in the large language models. The labor market might be very confused about so many people getting fired and hired. There's going to be a shock. We don't know how to deal with those. We don't have financial models to estimate what happens when we have 20 or 30% unemployment. So a lot of those things that we're used to and that keep us safe and that we're used to in terms of society are actually beginning to change. Also, we're observing a merging between companies and countries. So that means that essentially the companies and the states get together on this deal with the AI, and they co-own the data, and they co-own and dictate the rules forward. AGI is artificial general intelligence, and this means that the AI is roughly at the level of humans. And we're somewhat getting there, and most probably people claim that this is going to be, in the next 1 or 2 years, we're going to achieve that. And that means that the AI can do almost anything that people do. Now the question is, what do you do with an AI that is invisible? You don't know that it's doing anything that it's doing. Big companies can deploy it in thousands, and you have no idea You don't know if you're talking to a person or AI on Facebook. You don't know who's doing what. So this is very interesting how we have no regulations yet for something that is so close. So another thing that makes it very difficult to predict AI is the fact that a lot of those technologies we know separately. Maybe we know batteries, maybe we know materials, maybe we know sensors, but it's sometimes difficult to imagine how they all get together into one big concept, like the one where you merge with the brain. We simply don't have the imagination. And so the last section I want to say is what our current setup is. The current setup is mostly capitalism. And capitalism has been driving the world and the business, and a lot of the competition that is healthy competition is driving the innovation and has been very positive in some ways. But right now, everybody's in competition. The countries are in competition to beat each other on AI, power, military, economics. The companies that produce the AI in competition with each other. The companies that apply and use this AI are in competition, and the employees are also in competition. So if we ever thought that the AI should be stopped or delayed for a little bit, then we are in a tough place, because capitalism does not allow for this pause. Another thing is it's very difficult because it's invisible to people. I said that it's a living thing, and I said that it's another race, kind of like human race, that we're mixing with them. We're going to live with them in every possible way, but at the same time, they don't have bodies yet. So the AI is a little strange. Nobody sees it, and nobody gets involved in it and understands it. Also, let's assume that we all decide that AI is going to be everywhere. AI is going to do our jobs, AI is going to help us do incredible things with medicine, AI is going to do things that we've never seen. Yet, it's so fragile. First of all, the chip industry is based on a couple things. There is only one company that produces the machines for the chips, and that's ASML. There's only one company that really designs those chips, and that is NVIDIA. And there's only one company that produces those chips with the designs of NVIDIA and the machines of ASML, and that is TSMC in Taiwan. So if any of those break along the way, we're done with the AI chips, and we have to go back to not having chips, or at least not having enough. And another point I want to say is there was a podcast, and it was mentioned that every now and then there's a sun outburst that is super strongly magnetic, and the last very, very magnetic outburst was solar flare, was about 200 years ago, and if you had one of those, it would burn the entire electronics. So if we put our companies, our governments, our life in the trust of AI, and suddenly we have a sun flare that burns all the chips, we're going to be back to zero. So, of course, we have the human weaknesses. We are afraid. We have ego. We say, well, we've always been on the top of the food chain. We don't believe and we don't want to accept the fact that now there's someone above us on the food chain. So we keep ignoring that fact. And we want power. We want to be more productive. We want more knowledge. We want more things that the AI can now give us. But those same things are the reason for what's going to happen, for what the AI can grow, and how dependent we become on the AI. The last slide is called algorithmic decision making. And what I want to say is that a lot of the things are going to start being decided by AI. There will be a lot of decisions in the companies. There will be a lot of decisions in the countries. There will be a lot of decisions in our lives that we take because of a conversation that we've had with the AI. The thing about it is we will trust those decisions because they can crunch more data and they can perform better. But the more we let AI decide for us, the more, because it's better, the more we can't check that work. And so the more we will just let go of the control and let it be the way it is. So, as a conclusion, if you want to be able to predict more accurately the AI and imagine what's going to happen in the next couple of years, I urge you to think of it as a living thing, slightly different. It doesn't have a body yet, but soon it will have a body. And imagine that we're going to all get mixed with those AIs in our lives, and then whatever you think that's going to happen, that would most probably going to be happening. Thank you.